We have a special guest tonight, Ralph Nader. He'll be calling in. And I'm just going to make a few remarks about what's going on. Angela Walker, almost did that again. My running mate is probably getting off work and on her way. So hopefully she'll join us soon. I put out a statement on Monday because I'm really getting angry at Joe Biden. You know, we know Trump gave up on COVID. Tens of thousands of people are dying. Trump is a loser. But where is Joe Biden? You know, he lives within commuter distance of the White House. He could convene them for news conferences to pound away at Trump on what we need to suppress the virus, test, trace, and quarantine program. And while he's at it, he could defend the Postal Service. He could talk about the need for mail-in ballots. He could talk about the need for $600 supplement for unemployed people who lost their benefit this week. And instead, he's AWOL, and Trump is dominating the airways with his stupid news conferences. I guess Trump thinks Trump's stupidities, he's gonna, keep going down in the polls. But we got a crisis on our hands, and Trump wants to be the president. He can command the attention of the media, and he's not. So I say he's complicit in these deaths, because by now, 6 months into this crisis, we should have this country doing what most other organized countries in the world have done to suppress the virus. That is to test, contact trace, and quarantine the infected so we can safely go back to work and to school. And here we are, and the infections are spreading like wildfire. So I made that statement on Monday, and I feel it every day. I don't hear from Biden even more. And then meanwhile, on the Republican side, Trump is setting up a situation to delegitimize the election. We already know that the Republicans primarily have purged 17 million voters from the voter rolls. Where they have control, they are denying polling stations, particularly in minority communities, that won't vote for Trump. And he's trying to destroy the Postal Service and the possibility of mail-in ballots in this pandemic. And then he's saying it's all rigged. So if he loses, he can claim that it was a rigged election and he should stay in power. Now that may just be a bargaining chip to get a pardon from whoever wins so he can go into retirement without going to jail. And that would be a crime in itself, because this man should pay for all the damage he's done. But it's not just the Republicans that are suppressing the vote. We have the problem of party suppression, which suppresses the vote. We know that 61% of voters who came out for Jill Stein, according to exit polls in 2016, would not have come out if she wasn't on the ballot. So you suppress the Green Party, you suppress the vote. And that's what the Democrats are doing. That's what they're doing here in New York. They tripled the requirements to stay on the ballot, to get on the ballot, and they doubled the frequency we have to meet it. And now we filed petitions in states like Montana and Pennsylvania and Wisconsin, and the Democrats are challenging our petition. They're trying to bleed us dry with court expenses. And these are rich folks, these Democrats. I had an interview about all the dark money that Biden is getting, and they're saying they can't unilaterally disarm. I say he should. I'm gonna have to I don't know who that was, but it was somebody in West Virginia. Biden is saying he's got to take dark money too through his super PACs. But what he could do is say, I'm clean and Trump is dirty, and make that an issue. But unfortunately, the Democrats are dirty. So these rich folks are trying to suppress two workers, myself and Angela Walker, trying to get on the ballot. And that's a crime in itself. So those are my remarks. I see Angela is in the screen, but I don't see her. Can you hear me, Angela?
Yes.
Okay. You want to add any remarks right now?
I'm trying to
lay out the format for the rest of the evening.
I'm trying to figure out why my camera's not on. It's been a day.
Well, let me, while you do that, just talk about what we're going to do here. Ralph Nader will be calling in, and we're going to ask him to give us 10 or 15 minutes on his views about what's going on in the election. And then we're going to try to do something we normally do in a big room and have a fundraiser. And hopefully we'll keep you online, because in a room, you got to walk out in front of everybody. Online, you could just tune out. But hopefully you'll stick around, because Ralph Nader will answer questions after we do our little fundraiser. And we need that money. We're in the matching funds period. All your donations up to $250 are matched. And you don't have to wait for the pitch. You see on the screen, my hardworking treasurer just put 300 hours in getting our matching funds application into the Federal Election Commission. And you can donate now. It's on the screen where you see the pictures of me and Angela. It says hawkins20.us/Ralph. And you can make your donation up to $250 right now and get it started. So Angela's still trying to find her picture. And I was hoping Ralph would have called in by now. So I think what I'm going to do is give him a call. And I know he's got the number, but hey, Ralph, it's Howie. You didn't give me a second set of numbers? Oh.
Yeah, you got to give me the meeting ID number. I can't get through with just the first set you said.
Okay, I will get that to you now.
There's no such thing as a conference call without two sets of numbers.
Well,
The operator comes on and says, what's your meeting ID number? Hit the pound afterwards.
okay, I'm pulling it up.
Are you on?
Yeah, we're on. And we're getting through the
I
technical
got
issues.
John Richard and Russ Bookover trying to contact you, so tell them you got through to me.
Yeah, you guys have my landline. This is my cell phone. So let's see.
And Howie, why don't you mute yourself as you tell the great Ralph Nader the meeting ID number? I don't think we want that going public. I don't think we want to get Zoom bombed. Oh, perfect. He's muted. Well, why don't I just vamp here for a moment? Most of y'all don't know who I am. My name is Travis Christal, and I'm the treasurer of this working class campaign. I got involved early on when I saw that we had successfully recruited someone who I think is really like the flagship politician of our party, just having followed his gubernatorial races. You know, certainly one of the furthest left-wing candidates, and someone who's always been known to run serious and strong campaigns that get the goods, including guaranteed paid family leave, $15 minimum wage, and ban on fracking in New York. And you know, we didn't really have any strong contenders in 2020. So when I saw that Howie heeded the call after hundreds of prominent Greens had signed a petition to draft him, the first thing I did is I donated $250. I just put that right on my Visa, and the reason I did that is because I saw that Howie was not playing around with this campaign. We weren't about to not try for matching funds or not get it, and we got it. And I want everyone who's listening to this to understand how much yeoman's work went into qualifying for federal matching funds. Okay, I tried to keep up with Howie just on a little tour of Texas. We just hit like 3 cities in Texas, and by the end of that, I was exhausted. But that was like one small portion of Howie's many tours across the country. I couldn't keep up with them. And that was going into people's houses, going into little, you know, diners, and having these little fundraisers, and people writing $100 checks here and there. And it added up, and we got it done. And, you know, it's a very small list of presidential campaigns in U.S. history that have ever qualified for matching funds.
So Travis, yeah, Ralph is calling in. He's got the meeting ID, and maybe Angela has a few words to say before we get to Ralph.
No, because I mean, I think everybody's like super, hey, everybody, first off. I think everybody's like super interested in hearing from Mr. Nader. So we're looking forward to that. And yeah, it's just been a very interesting day with the announcement of the VP for, the other folks. It's been a day.
Is Ralph Nader on?
Hey, Ralph, we can hear you. So at this point, Angela and I have said a few words to people, and so has our treasurer, Travis Christal. So the format here is let's hear from you for 10 or 15 minutes about what's going on in America and in the campaign. And then Travis is going to try to raise some money, and then we'll have questions and answers for you. So,
All right, good.
the floor is
Thank
yours.
you, Howie. Thank you, Angela. Hello, everybody. As you know, I've had a little experience in what you're going through now, and I want to make comments about the legitimacy of what the Green Party is doing in contrast to the criticisms of even daring to field candidates in a presidential or congressional election year. What the Democrats and the Republicans in their two-party duopoly, where they think they own all the voters, don't understand is that running for political office is the ultimate utilization of the First Amendment. It's free speech, it's right to petition, and it's right of assembly. Anybody who says to you, drop out, don't run, is in effect saying, do not exercise your free speech rights, shut up. Something they wouldn't say often outside the electoral arena. They wouldn't be brazen enough to say it. The answer that I gave these people who constantly used the politically extortionate, politically bigoted word spoiler is that I was running against a thoroughly spoiled political system. Who's the spoiler? When that didn't suffice, I said, look, we're all in it trying to get votes from one another and get people who don't vote out. So we're either all spoilers of one another or none of us are spoilers. No, the Democrats and Republicans do not use the word spoiler against each other, do they? That's why it's a politically bigoted phrase, and it's usually followed up by harassments of petition gatherers on street corners, pre-COVID period, litigation. We were sued, I think, 22 times in the summer of 2004, all over the country, harassing suits, soaking up our time, our funds. We ended up just having a post-Labor Day campaign. We won most of them. Some of them are breakthrough litigation that you can benefit from. Others were extremely partisan Democratic judges that said things they wouldn't want repeated in polite circles. So to the two parties, you might want to say, number one, if you had ranked voting or the instant runoff voting, you would not have the problem you perceive to have. Second, if you had proportional representation, getting rid of this absurd winner take all, where you can get 48% and lose, unlike in Germany, when the Greens got 5% or more, as they climbed the percentage ladder, they got 5% or more of the parliament. So had a chance to grow. In this country, they don't allow Green parties to grow because they stifle them in their incipiency every 4 years. It's like nature not allowing seeds to grow. We wouldn't have much of a planet. But I guess in politics, anything goes. The third is the Democrats lost two presidential campaigns when they won the popular vote in 2000 and 2016 due to the electoral college travesty, and they have refused to come out against the electoral college. Imagine 2 presidential campaigns in 16 years. and they've refused to support the national popular vote drive, which gets state legislatures and governors to sign laws that say whoever wins the popular vote nationally will throw the electoral vote in that direction. And they now have, I believe, about 192 of the 280 votes they need, because they've gotten California, Massachusetts. I don't know about Massachusetts. They've got California, Illinois, Maryland, Connecticut, and other states to take up to 192 electoral votes. And Democrats never supported that. So they're into scapegoating. They don't look in the mirror and ask why they keep losing elections at the national, state, and local level to the worst Republican Party in history, the most vicious, corporate indentured, Wall Street toady, warmongering, corrupt, self-seeking party, Republican Party in history. You can imagine what Dwight Eisenhower, Teddy Roosevelt, and Senator Robert Taft would have thought of these guys. Look what they're doing on the relief bill, and they should be paying a much higher penalty. So that's the way to respond to these people. And the final one, which I used, was here's the Green Party platform. Take it. Take it, Democrats. Take it, Republicans. Take it away from us. We'd love for you to do that. No. They want to exclude and suppress rather than say, gee, I wonder why the Green Party has all these proposals and policies that have majoritarian votes behind them, majoritarian support in the polls, rather, behind them. And if you look at votenader.org, which I left on since 2008, you'll see about 19 issues that were taken off the table, no discussion by the Republican Democratic Party. Most of them had majoritarian support. Or if they were explained, because they were never put into political theater, they would have majoritarian support. But they were taken off the table by both parties, who froze the Green Party and Libertarian Party, etc., out of the national debates, because the debate commission is a corrupt nonprofit lever of the two parties. You know, the former heads of the Democrat and Republican National Committee run the debate commission for years, and it's funded by, you know, Anheuser-Busch, AT&T, and so on, hospitality suites, and the commission decides the number of debates, where they are, who the moderator is, who the reporters are, who can get into the audience, and other rules that turn it into a farce. And so if you want to read more about it, the classic little book's called No Debate by George Farah, F-A-R-A-H. And he was all over TV and radio in 2004 when his book came out. So that's the way you reply to these people. Don't you ever let them call you a spoiler. Just say that's a politically bigoted word. You, the speaker, the accuser, should be above that, and then get them into this kind of dialogue. Having said that, this is a fundraiser, after all. I've done more than my share of Green Party fundraisers, and I've learned three things. One is there's a lot of hooting and hollering, because this was, you know, in rallies and auditoriums. And the second is that Green Party people, with few exceptions, are very frugal. We're not talking about low-income people. As you know, unfortunately, there are not enough minorities in Green Party. And third, there are always a tiny number of well-endowed people, people who are people of means, as the saying goes. And that's what I'd like to help address after Howie and all the rest of you who are working this, Angela, do the 250 level, I guess. And I'd like two people to get into a friendly bidding war. So we'll start at a certain level, and then we'll get you up, and then we'll say, okay, A's reached this. How about B? Can B match this? And the winner will get a modestly autographed copy of my book on the 2000 campaign, which is still the highest vote turnout for the Greens, called Crashing the Party: how to tell the truth and still run for president. If that's okay with you, Howie and Angela?
Yeah, that's great. So why don't we have Travis do the pitch for money that qualifies for matching funds? It goes up to $250. So Travis, the floor is yours. This is our hardworking treasurer, and he knows why we need the money.
Yeah. Hey, first of all, what an amazing honor and a privilege to share the proverbial stage with the great Ralph Nader, an American treasure and someone who has really shaped my life. And, you know, I don't know who I would be if it wasn't for the example that Ralph has set. And, you know, all I can say to pay that forward is I'm going to dedicate my damn life to the struggle for justice and freedom. You know, let's talk a little bit about matching funds. So the hard part has happened. We went out there and busted our asses and got over $5,000 in donations of no more than $250 per person in each of 20 states. And it's a small handful of presidential campaigns in US history that have ever achieved matching funds. And here we are. And matching funds are going to be in effect through August 24th. And so that means every single dime that everyone donates, up to $250 per donor, gets doubled by the federal government. And, you know, one thing that Howie, who's our organizer in chief, used to go say when we were doing these in-person fundraisers is he would speak from his own experience as a working class union man and talk about union dues and about how it was several $100s per year on oftentimes people who were making starvation wages. And the truth is, everybody can afford $250 when it comes to something that is important as resisting omnicide and making our clear list of demands for human rights. We're demanding Trump resign. We're demanding Trump could be impeached. And you know, we're demanding an eco-socialist Green New Deal that's not aimed at saving capitalism, but rather ending capitalism. So, you know, I'm going to find a copy of your book, Ralph. I know I have it around here somewhere, but in the meantime, I'll put a plug for this one too. How the Rats Reformed Congress, a fable by Ralph Nader. And if you guys haven't listened to his podcast, it's the best one out there. Make sure you go listen to the Ralph Nader Radio Hour. So I just want to talk briefly. Yeah, thank you, Ralph. I just want to talk briefly about, you know, what it is that got me to agree to join this campaign and pour in the thousands of hours of work that it has entailed. And that is that a year and a half ago, I was listening to the Black Agenda Report, and they had Howie on, and they asked him what I thought was a incisive question. What is it about your campaign, Howie, that's going to be different than previous Green presidential campaigns? We go through this cycle every 4 years. And his answer was, I'm going to have a campaign that's focused on building the Green Party. And, you know, what that looks like is, you know, we've invested over $10,000 in a new database, customer relations management system, Civi CRM, that has the potential to become the Green Party's version of NGP Van, this database that the Democrats use. And it's going to save the Greens tens of thousands of dollars per year going forward because local parties, the national party, campaigns can all get rid of the expensive vendors like Nation Builder and use this resource, which is basically free. There's a little bit of hosting costs. Maybe have to pay some coders to maintain it. But that's going to be a game changer, not just for the fact that it's going to save us so much money, but we'll be able to, for the first time, automatically share data between campaigns, local parties, and the national party. Believe it or not, we don't have that today. You know, when you really get involved with the Green Party, you see that in many ways, there's just not a lot of there. And that's not a reason to get discouraged. That's, you know, as the late, great Bruce Dixon used to say, the Green Party is like a fully functioning automobile with the keys on and nobody's in the driver's seat, waiting for millions of people to hop in. We got a lot of ballot lines. We got a great platform. What we do need is we need a campaign like H2O to secure as many ballot lines as possible and keep those ballot lines. And that brings us to, what are we going to do with this money? And it's all about ballot access right now. One thing about this campaign that's different as well is that it's a working class campaign. We did not start the campaign with $40,000 loan from the candidate. We don't have a lot of self-funding, and the folks that work on this campaign are poor and working class regular folks. And one thing that got me excited about this project was I was genuinely curious to see if it was possible for the working class to organize themselves and run our own campaign, because a lot of people treat politics with a certain style of authoritarianism that basically says, I'm going to sit back, I'm going to let the experts basically run the show, and somebody else will take care of it. Well, that's not the case here. This is a hands-on party, and we gotta do this ourselves. Nobody else is going to do this for us. And I think the jury is still out on this important question: can the working class run our own successful campaign? When I say the jury is still out, what I mean by that is, in my opinion, what's going to define how successful this campaign is, it has a lot to do with how many ballot lines we get on. And over these next 3 weeks, there are several winnable and losable states. Every single one of these states that are coming up, we've got fires in the oven in all of them. And a lot of our success is going to come down to whether we can get enough money to pay enough petitioners to go out there in COVID-19, $1, $2 a signature, and go get these thousands of signatures. And that's where you come in. If you're listening to this right now, it's not a coincidence that you're here. And I know that I'm preaching to the choir. And now it's time for you to step up. And if Ralph has taught us anything, it's the lesson of civic duty. And we've only had one person max out in this primary. Someone gave $2,800. That's the max for a primary. And his donor comment was, "My money's useless on a dying planet." And I think he's right. Nobody else has even donated more than half of the max. We've got, I think, like 4 total people who've given over $1,000. If you can do that, we need it. We want it. Please bust out that Amex and go to hawkins20.us/Ralph. I know you want that signed copy of Crashing the Party. But we're asking something that I think everybody listening can make happen, and that is get up to $250. This is a rare opportunity. You've got only until August 24th. We don't have the billionaire donors. All we have is the opportunity for you to give us $250 and have Uncle Sam match that dollar for dollar, so we can take those $500 and put it into some petitioner's pocket who's going to go in the middle of a pandemic, not that we want to, but we're forced to do this, and go get signatures to get us on the ballot so that we can keep those ballot lines and we can elect thousands of Greens heading into the 2020s. It's not going to happen unless we get and maintain those ballot lines. So we're going to try something. It's going to be awkward. I hope you don't click off the live stream, but I'm just going to invite everybody listening right now to go to hawkins20.us/Ralph and give $250. And I've got the window open here so I can give you a shout out. We've already had a handful of donations so far tonight since we opened up this stream. Our top donor so far is a heroic person named Calvin from Alabama. who gave $104. That means we get $208. See how that works? We're rich. Let's drain that the treasury. Let's defund the military by there's no ceiling on how many dollars Uncle Sam will match with federal matching funds. So let's empty his pockets tonight. We've also got a $26 donation from Kyle in Virginia, who left a donor comment that says, oh, sorry, you know what you're doing. Send the message. Well, if you're talking to me, I'll tell you in terms of knowing what I'm doing. When Andrea, the campaign manager, asked me to be the treasurer, the campaign already had someone who was doing the treasurer work, and he really did know what he was doing. He's an old timer, great guy, Dave from New Jersey. But he was like, take it or leave it. I'll keep doing this or whatever. They asked me to be the treasurer, and I said, well, but I mean, I'm a CPA, I'm an accountant, but I don't know what I'm doing. And they said, well, part of the point of this campaign is to build leaders. So going back to what I was talking about earlier, what is the raison d'etre of this campaign? It's to build the Green Party, and I'm living proof of this right now. I think at this point, I could say that I do know what I'm doing. I've had to learn baptism by fire, and so that now that's another asset on the ledger for the Green Party, to use some accounting parlance, because of course the most valuable resource is the human resource. And I think everyone on the campaign team has had a similar experience where we can all say that we've learned a lot along the way, and we planned to keep using these skills to keep building this party and running campaigns going forward. We got another donation from Tyler. Can't afford much, but it's honest work. Let's go. Love from North Carolina. All right. And Joshua, it says, Nader Raiders, Hawkins Walkin 2020, F Kamala, Cali Blaze Up, Smoke Weed, Joe and Joe. Thank you, Joshua. Kenneth with the big 104. Ding, ding, ding. I think that means we actually have a little bit of a head-to-head here with Calvin. We have a couple of 104 donors. Kenneth from Massachusetts. Can't thank you enough. So while the donations keep rolling through, I do want to say we're still at that 250 level, and we haven't had anyone really break the 104 mark. I want to say again what our big top donor Raj from Austin said. He said, "My money's no good on a dying planet." So, I think you got to think about these things this way. It's every 4 years that we run for president. It's no guarantee we're going to get matching funds next time. Who knows when we'll ever get matching funds again? This is a really rare and unique opportunity. And if you're thinking about waiting until closer to the general and donating then, it's the wrong play. Today is the day. We need the money today. We got these deadlines coming up that maybe we can talk about a little later in the show, but there's a lot of them. And the other thing about donating now being so important is we're actually still waiting for our matching funds check from the government while we're in the most expensive phase of our campaign. So it's a little bit of a tightrope to balance. We've got a lot of expensive ballot drives going on right now. And we've had to make some painful decisions to be able to not run out of money. So it's really going to move the needle. Everything that comes through tonight.
Hey, Travis, let me add a couple of things to your exhortation. It's very hard to do a virtual fundraiser because I've never done it, and I'm sure a lot of people haven't done it either since that terrible pandemic came on. We call it Trump's virus. It came from China, but Trump owns it because not doing anything and doing the wrong things and not starting early enough is responsible. According to a Columbia University study, 83% of the deaths could have been prevented to date. But the fundraisers we usually have, are in person. You're looking at people's eyes. You're seeing what their expression is. You're seeing how they're exhorting each other on row 3 or row 15. And so Travis got a really hard task here, especially when we don't know how many are on the line. At least I don't. But here's an additional way to think about it. Make a list of everything you inherited that you liked about your country, and except for the GI Bill of Rights, I'll bet everyone was first pioneered by a third party. The Liberty in 1840 against slavery, the Liberty Party. I asked some of these people who use the word spoiler, so aren't you glad some people didn't vote for the Whig Party or the Democratic Party and cut out and voted for the Liberty Party? Oh yeah, that's good, but not now. Now is not the time. Yeah, really. Women's suffrage, the Women's Suffrage Party, third party. The whole labor and farmer progressive movements, Populist Party, Farmers Party, Greenback Party, you name it, in the late 19th century. And then the populist progressives, and they're the ones who first proposed Social Security, full medical care for everybody, progressive income tax, 40-hour week, the right to form labor unions. And more recently, they came out in terms of the environment, like the Green Party, who was talking about global warming and climate chaos. We were talking about it in 1996. I don't recall the Democratic Party saying much about it, not to mention the Republican Party. So that's another reason. So if you're holding back because you say, it's a two-party dominant system, small parties push. They change the public dialogue. They get people talking about things. Look what Bernie did. He wasn't a small party, but he didn't win, but he changed a lot of the thinking and talking about what was going on. And he did it as a democratic socialist. He didn't fuzz. He didn't back away. He didn't blur. Anyway, the small parties break the ground. And the blasphemy of today becomes the commonplace of tomorrow. The public housing was supported by, minimum wage was supported first by a third party, Norman Thomas Socialist Party, starting in the late 1920s, and the rest is history. So think of it in the historical context, how important it is to keep a third party like the Green Party vibrant, and call in and contribute. You get double. The matching funds means what you give up to $250 is doubled. Thank you.
Man, Ralph knows how to bring in the money, because while you were talking, Ralph, we got a lot of donations come through. Several 250s have come through, as well as a bunch of hundreds and a bunch of 50s. And so you got Stephen in New Jersey. Sorry if I mispronounced her name, but Charan, right up the road from me in Grand Prairie, just also gave $259. And Brian of Connecticut gave $250. Thank you, Brian. And
I hope your lights are on, Brian. Never Source blacked out the whole area. They strip mined the workers and cut back and paying their CEO $19.8 million. So thanks, Brian.
So I think we definitely have that little runoff thing going between our 250 donors. If you want that copy of Crashing the Party, you better donate again.
Travis, you know, some people may care more about military and foreign policy. Let me just say this. Who's raised the military budget, boondoggle, the empire, that's doing what all empires do overseas? They blow innocent people apart, destroy countries like Iraq and Libya, you know, Hillary's war in Libya and Bush's war in Iraq and so on. And they create more adversaries, kill millions of innocent civilians, and devour their own country. All empires devour themselves eventually. And you can see, you got billions and billions of dollars going to the military budget. Over 55% of the entire federal government's operating expenditure now. It's military. And they're chintzing on repairing schools, building public transit, restoring libraries, community health clinics, mass transit. We don't have money for this. We don't have money for that. Creating good paying jobs that can't be exported. But we got money for F-35s and, you know, the latest iteration of the Trident submarine. Sometimes ask some of your friends how many cities one Trident submarine built in Groton, Connecticut, can destroy in less than an hour. The answer, multiple nuclear warheads, 200 cities in the world, one sub. How many do you need? General Dynamics never says enough is enough. F-35s, we don't need those. But they're coming from your pockets because the two parties have taken the military budget off the table. Howie's made that point again and again. It's a taboo subject. Taboo subject? 55% of the federal operating budget, getting us into deep water, making people hate us all over the third world. And it's a taboo subject. See how corrupt the two parties are? And when Trump came in, he said, we got to give more money, $84 billion more dollars. He gave the generals more dollars than they asked for. They didn't know what to do with it. And who went along with it? The Democratic Party in Congress. They traded off for some social safety net. That's the technique now. The military-industrial complex basically has said, every dollar you give to poor babies, or to housing, or to public transit, or to food stamp, you got to give the same amount to the military. How's that for a devil's bargain? So those of you who are really keen on what's happening, what we're doing to people, innocent people, Palestinians, people in Iraq, the horrendous destruction of Afghanistan, and he's running 9 illegal wars, Trump. Unconstitutional, illegal wars right now. 9 drones. Drones everywhere, blowing up civilians, wedding parties. So if you really are concerned about the military and foreign policy, which is draining domestic funds for domestic necessities, at least that's the argument they give in Congress. So we got to shore up the military. Now's your time to give matching funds and help Travis out in this virtual fundraiser. I tell you, Travis, you got the hardest job in the world. You're trying to get money from people you really can't see. So.
Well, we're approaching $4,000. We got about $250 more to go. So it's pretty good for one of our fundraisers. Just one more person give $250 and have Uncle Sam match it. And then
we'll have the showdown with 2 people of means. to make it a real big winner.
And Andrea's landlady, Andrea Merida's our campaign manager, has given $250 twice. So we really appreciate that.
Big shout out to Ms. Carol. We thank you.
Thank you, Andrea.
So the place to donate at is hawkins20.us. I said backslash, it's /Ralph. And click on there. And we don't want to keep Ralph for more than an hour. These programs usually go for about an hour. But we did say that we'd give people an opportunity to ask Ralph some questions. So while you're contributing money, let's do that. And if you're on Zoom, you can type them in the chat. And people higher up in the campaign, I just work here, I'm just a candidate. They know all this technical stuff. There may be other ways to get your question in on other platforms that you're viewing this on. So let's see if we get any questions for Ralph. Yeah, type the comment on the platform you're watching from. And we got people watching all the platforms. So we're still at $3,788.21. It's the latest report. So here's the question, Ralph, from Kayla Nicole. You said you want to pull the military from other countries. What will their jobs be? What will they do to help at home? Why would we need them here and not in our allied countries?
You mean, why would we want to pull back U.S. soldiers in Germany 60 years after World War II? Is that what she's asking, or he's asking?
Yeah, asking that, and then what would they do when they come home, for work?
Well, the money that was spent keeping them over there is about $70 to $80 billion, which is about what it costs students in public universities tuition. So they get free tuition to go to college if they want to go to a training institute if they want to, and to live in peace. Live in peace instead of being over there, bristling with armor, people in these countries looking at you saying, what are you doing here? Get out of our backyard, Middle East and Central Asia and elsewhere. That's what we always, as a Green Party candidate, I pushed that. There were X thousands of soldiers in bases in Germany. And I said, what are they doing there? I mean, look at all the money. And tuition was going up for everybody, up. We ought to look at Western Europe. They have, except for England recently, they have tuition-free education. They have a higher minimum wage. They have better pensions. They have maternal care, child care, parental leave care. They have better mass transit. They have minimum of 4 weeks paid vacation for everybody, not just people who belong to unions. Unions are stronger, far stronger union laws. We have a vicious anti-union law called the Taft-Hartley Act of 1947. And they just have better public services. They support their libraries. They have clinics. They treat their children much more kindly in places like France. So what do they know that we don't know? Well, they had a multi-party system after World War II. They had stronger unions, and they had cooperatives. And they took all that, and they said, okay, we're all devastated from World War II. Cities, countryside, devastated. We don't want this anymore. We want to pay our taxes and get them back. We're not going to have taxes go to corporate loopholes and welfare and subsidies, handouts, giveaways, bailouts like Wall Street. We want the money to come back. That's why we're paying taxes. We want it to come back in good schools, healthcare, public transit, the arts, and all kinds of other necessities. That's the difference. You see, that's why there's not anywhere near the tax revolt efforts. And look what they get for it. And they get full health insurance. I forgot to add that. They get full health insurance. What do we get? We're supposedly won World War II. We're like a country. So
Ralph,
that's what you're unleashing, Howie and Angela, all over the country. You got to get on more states. The more states you get on, the more the media will pay attention to you. If you're on 30 states, not so good as if you're on 42 states. And that's why we want you to contribute. You want me to contribute right now. It's not going to hurt. You'll be proud. You get it doubled. We worked hard to get matching funds under the law many, many years ago. You should demand your local radio and TV station give time to Howie and Angela when they go around, or if they have to do it virtually. They shouldn't just exclude you from the public airways. You own the public airways. The people are the landlords. The radio and TV stations are the tenants. They don't pay us any rent. Wouldn't tenants love that around the country? They get it free. However, they're supposed to have an obligation for programming in the public interest, convenience, and necessity. That's the phrase from the 1934 Act. So demand to control more of what you own, the public airways. The Democrats, progressives, they've given up on the public airways. They've given it to Rush and Hannity and Levin and all these people who are fouling the public airways and controlling 95% of the talk show hosts. So you want to get angry. You got to have fire in your belly. It's not enough to know what the right course of action is. So,
well, I think you're getting fire in people's belly, Ralph. We're up over $5,000. And we have some more questions, and people want Angela to say something too. So you were going to say, Ralph?
I was going to say, extrapolating, if we were all together in an auditorium, it would be $25,000. You see the difference between in-person communication and virtual reality.
Yeah.
There's nothing like reality, virtual reality. Because I would be able to thank people. People would thank each other. They would challenge each other. They would try to outgive each other. I'm still willing to see if there are two people of means who want to start at 250 and bid each other up in a friendly contest.
Okay, while somebody starts that bidding war, let me ask the next question and let Angela jump in too if she wants. The next question was, what's your advice for a Green who wants to run for local office? That's from San Joseph.
That's so important. When I was running in 2000, we just had about 250 local candidates. You can't build a party without local candidates, and then state, and then national. And so you got to run for public office. And it's easy. It's so easy. There are, tens of thousands of elected offices, hundreds of thousands. You have, the town officials who are elected. You have the zoning commission, the education council. I mean, there are a lot of elected offices. There are 3,000 counties or so in the U.S. I think there may be as many as 3 million local elective offices. A lot of times, the incumbent doesn't have any opponent. Nobody wants to run. I've seen some reports where some office, nobody's running. And when you run for local office, you got a better chance of being able, in a pre-COVID, to knock on every door, and money isn't as big a factor as if you run in a bigger geographical area. So all for it, just run. That's where you learn the techniques. You learn how to make the case. You learn how to make friends, influence people. You learn how to demand reform of the electoral process. You learn how to feel good about yourself, and you're ready for the next round and the next round. Remember, never depreciate your own contribution. I've had people say, well, I'm just one person. What am I? I'm a nobody. Boy, do I hate that phrase when they say I'm a nobody. So I say, well, you know the mighty Mississippi River? Yeah. I said, do you know where it starts? It's somewhere up north in Canada or something. No, it starts in northern Minnesota with a rivulet that becomes a brook, that becomes a stream, that becomes a tributary. And then the Missouri tributary starts in Montana. It all starts with drops of water. So never depreciate. Everything starts with one person. I mean, you look at any justice movement. Starts with 1, 2, 6, 8, 100, so on. So think of yourself that way if you don't have already a circle around you where you can start out with 50, 100 people. And one of the things you can do when you run for local office, you can look at my little paperback, Breaking Through Power, It's Easier Than We Think. I give a lot of examples, is to educate people about summoning their legislators and their city council people to their own town meetings. That is the people's town meeting. Set the agenda. Gets the local auditorium or the local city hall's room. And you summon your lawmakers, your local, state, and congressional lawmakers. And the summons is actually written out in this book, Breaking Through People. You can't really be a Green Party winner if you don't read. Howie and Angela read. You have to read. You may not think so, but looking at screens often is not my idea of reading. There are a lot of great books on how to build movements, how to put on a press conference, how to develop civic and candidate skills, all kinds of things to learn and learn fast, and you can learn on the job as well. So the answer is run, run, run.
Angela, you want to talk about running for sheriff in Milwaukee? It's with your local race, got you started.
First off, Mr. Nader, thank you. I cannot tell you how excited I am that you're here with us. This is such an honor, like Travis said earlier. I've got the biggest grin on my face. And yeah, I mean, it just made me think of, how homemade our campaign in 2014 was. To be running for Milwaukee County Sheriff as a broke, I had what was it, 2-3 jobs at the time, a failing relationship. It was wild. And to run as a broke, independent, unknown socialist for that position against a fairly entrenched incumbent who was highly dislikable, but still, very, very much supported by the Republicans around Milwaukee County. To be able to get 20% of the vote in that campaign just blew my campaign away, blew away a whole lot of socialist organizations around the country. And so thinking about what you just said, Mr. Nader, and the fact that people absolutely, you have to believe in yourself. And you do, even with this campaign, this is not my first campaign, but I am learning a whole lot about how to campaign and about how to, bring issues to people in a way, especially now because there is a pandemic, because there is an uprising, because there is so much economic uncertainty that people are having to hold right now, and just all of the stress that comes with that, and thinking about how to bring these things to people in a way that make them theirs. I have learned quite a bit and am learning quite a bit with this campaign. So to anybody that is thinking about running, whatever the office is, however small you think it is, like Mr. Nader said, run, let nothing stop you, and be open to learning. This is a process, but it also, and I mentioned it in the speech that I made when we won, Howie and I won the nomination for our party, is also, we're talking about shadow work. And it's sitting with yourself and the parts of you and examining those parts of you as a person and doing the self-assessment to say, why are you running? I do it every day. Why are you running? You know, what am I standing on? You know, what parts of me are coming forth that are uncomfortable? You know, and how do I, what is this telling me about myself? To make sure that you are, you know, you're bringing all of yourself to the work that you're doing. And I say this to activists and I say it to organizers as well. And so, and I'm watching this popping up in the chat, and I just want to throw that in there. All of y'all who are donating, we see you. And we are aware that there is a pandemic happening. There's a whole lot of things happening. And I hope that not for one moment do you think that we make these requests lightly or understand that this is not, I mean, it's a big deal. It is a very, very big deal. So thank every last one of you, you know, whatever you're giving, how you're giving, and yeah, just, you know, just thinking about a debate, well, not a debate, but a discussion we were having on Twitter where, you know, it's like Mr. Nader said when he was first talking, like we were told to drop out. Somebody said that to me in a tweet, like, get out, like, stop. And I was like, you know, and someone else accused us, you know, this isn't for you to feed your ego. And I told him, if I wanted to feed my ego, I'd run as a Democrat. This is not ego feeding right here. Let me just tell you. And so to be able to stand on what you believe, and I believe in this platform with my whole soul, and to be able to stand on that in the middle of knowing what we are up against is not a small thing. So we want you to know that, you know, this is not a cosmetic campaign. This is not a campaign for show. We are in this to win this, or get as close to it as we possibly can. So for all of the help that you're giving and the questions you're asking, the kind words and support, just know that we see all of it and we thank you.
Eric Beauregard just gave $259.92. I'm not sure why that percent or why the cents were on there, but thank you very much. We're over $6,000 now. And
thank you, Angela. You know, Angela made an important point. You have to believe in yourself. Another way of saying you got to respect yourself. And run for office, you got to respect yourself as a strong citizen. You're going to be stronger and more skilled. And at local level, you can actually win because there's so many empty seats or, smug incumbents that don't think anyone else can unseat them. A lot of opportunities to win at the local level. I can't imagine how hard it is to campaign that like Angela and Howie are doing in a virtual situation. I can't imagine campaigning in a COVID-19 situation but I do think that some suggestions can work. And what I would do now, if I was you, I would name the people in the Congress who are blocking the $3.4 trillion bill that the Democrats passed in the House for local and state, for the postal system, for $600 a week continuation till January, and many other parts. I would name the people in the Senate, starting with Mitch McConnell. Keep naming them and keep naming them and name them, because the Democrats aren't doing that. It's unbelievable how inept they are. This is their great opportunity, but they're not doing that. And the Green Party's got to hold these people accountable, whether it's on the big issues like empire and civil rights and poverty, but also on the issue of the day, because the press focus on the issue of the day. You put out a rogues gallery of these people with Mitch McConnell at the head. Just how cruel and vicious. You would think they would want to go along just to keep up in the polls, have a chance of winning. They don't care. Greed and power and selfishness mark these people. So we have any other larger contributions coming in, Travis?
Yeah, actually, Steve of New Jersey is up to $750. He's got a couple people behind him that are at $500. but he is in the lead, and he actually
Wonderful, Steve.
He left a comment. If I can pull it up. Read my review of Ralph's book, Fake President, in the next issue of Green Horizon magazine.
Oh, that's good. That's a good magazine. They wonderful tribute the other day to John and Mr. Green himself and John Renzenbrink. And it is good to read this book because you pick up a lot of things that, things we didn't do, things we did do, the kind of reaction we got. You can't believe the venom that came out of people. Just, go for rank voting, go for proportional rep, get rid of the electoral college, pick up some of the issues. In 2004, actually, we had people walk down to the party headquarters and give them our issues on a silver platter. We actually had silver platters and people dressed up like they were working in a restaurant. And they walked down to K Street and elsewhere and said, here, take the Green Party platform. Come on. They want it both ways. They want to go with the corporate powers. It's very much about corporate domination. Corporations, corporate supremacy, corporate state, fascism, corporate control of our national, state, local government. The merry-go-round where they put their executives or their people in high government positions and then they come out and do the bidding. It's got to be much more focused on corporations, which is what drew me to the Green Party. They weren't just civil rights, civil liberties, and that's so important. But they were corporations. See, there are two kinds of injustices. One is discriminatory injustice. The police single out black people and Hispanics. The disproportionate number of people dying are minorities in COVID-19, etc. That's discriminatory injustice. But the Greens are also keen on indiscriminatory injustice. That is, everybody is exposed to climate devastation. Everybody is exposed to corporate ripoffs in a variety of ways. It doesn't matter whether you're in a red state or a blue state. You get ripped off by your credit card or your big landlord the same way. So it's good to distinguish that because you don't want to have it all focus on discriminatory injustice. You also want to talk about indiscriminatory injustice. You get more people to pay attention. More people will say, we're all in it together here. Occupational disease, indiscriminatory injustice. Poor whites, poor blacks, poor Hispanics get the brunt of it, but all workers are exposed to it. Carpal tunnel syndrome, even in white-collar jobs, very, very painful. So you want to talk about indiscriminate injustice against everybody, and children, the future generations, as well as discriminatory injustice on the ground, of which there's plenty. Anyone want to go to 1,000? You got to go one to 1,000.
We need 1,000 donation.
The next person who gives 250 is getting an autographed copy of Howie's book here, which is very Ralph. It's a very Ralph-centric book because it's basically a post-mortem of the 2004 Green campaign and has a lot of lessons. This is called Independent Politics, Green Party Strategy Debate. It is a curated volume with all of these thinkers. It includes thoughts from Ralph, Matt Gonzalez, who's one of the people who drafted Howie to run, almost won mayor of San Francisco, Sharon Smith, Ashley Smith, Norman Solomon, Jeffrey St. Clair, and it includes like an intro by Howie. I can't recommend it highly enough. And he'll sign this, and we'll mail it to you for a $250 donation. And I can't agree strongly enough with Ralph's comments about the importance of reading. And also, I want to also say, you know, Ralph has been so clear over the years about corporate power. And I really think that's one of the most insidious things that people do not realize, that the enemies of human life and life on earth are already in power. The task at hand is for us to dismantle these systems that have been put in place over the past several decades.
Well put, Travis. That corporate power unleashed means they take over our government and turn it against us in all kinds of ways people know. And they use our own tax dollars to subsidize these crooks. They don't get prosecuted. There's a corporate crime wave. They try to focus on crime in the streets instead of crime in the suites, which, by the way, on all margins, corporate crime takes more lives, produces more injuries, produces far more disease, steals far more than all the street crime put together. It isn't even close. There's 58,000 workers who die from worker-related diseases and traumas every year, and there are about 15,000 street homicides, just for starters. And there are 250,000 people who die in hospitals due to preventable problems, malpractice, hospital-induced germs, diseases, and that comes from Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine. That was 4 years ago. That's a prime peer-reviewed study. That's 5,000 a week. 5,000 a week die in hospitals from preventable problems. That's just how they talked about it. So, and then you have the fraud. How about this one? According to a Harvard applied mathematician, unrebutted, $1 billion a year is stolen from people and their health care bills. Excuse me, $1 billion a day. You heard it right. $1 billion a day. Out of the $3.5 trillion that we spend on healthcare, 10% is ripped off with computerized billing, fraud, and abuse. That's $1 billion a day. You have to have a lot of bank robbers to reach just one day's loot, and they do it 365 days a year. And there are very few prosecutors in the federal government to get that money back, whether it's Democrats or Republicans. Green Party have been calling for cracking down on corporate crime for a long time.
Well, we just hit $7,000, Ralph, and the Steve from New Jersey, you probably know him, Steve Welser. He's the editor
Sure.
of Green. So he's our
Hi,
first
Steve.
$1,000 donor. And
Great.
marched up the ladder tonight, and we really appreciate that. And of course, that means $2,000 for the campaign. Well, no, means another $250 for the campaign, because that's as much as Uncle Sam will match.
Right.
But we'll put that full $1,000 to good use. We're on the ballot now in about 32 states. We had to settle for write-in in 3 states, and there's one we may be on write-in, but we may get on, and people will hear about that soon. And we're still petitioning in 14 more states. And some of those deadlines are coming up in a few days on the 14th in Virginia, in Iowa, and then the 18th is Minnesota. And so it goes until September 4th, when it's Kentucky, where we need 5,000, Rhode Island, where we need 1,000, and damn Arizona, where we need 37,000 plus. And we're in court on that, but people are out there in that hot sun in a COVID hotspot collecting signatures. And, you know, our attitude is we're not going to let the Democrats and Republicans keep us off the ballot anywhere we can fight to get on. So, you know, we're fighting in every state. So we're going to have, we long ago passed the number of states we need to win the Electoral College and the presidency, and that ought to be grounds to put us in debates. You have an objective standard right there. We can have a 4-way debate with the Democrats, Republicans, Greens, and Libertarians. But of course, the Commission on Presidential Debates, they weren't set up for that. Sounds like a government agency, but as Ralph explained, it's a wholly owned subsidiary of the 2 major parties. So we're making great progress tonight. And Ralph, if you want to take more questions, I got a question about your cookbook and some others. Or we can.
Yeah, people always ask, well, what do you eat? After when I was fighting years ago for food safety and nutrition and kids and getting rid of junk food and junk drinks. So I'd mumble something like, I grew up on Arabic cuisine, and I said, well, we eat hummus and yogurt, and we used to call it Lebanon. Well, people didn't know what I was talking about. So although it was somewhat belatedly, I just put out a book called The Ralph Nader and Family Cookbook, and it has inexpensive ingredients that are available in all the grocery stores, except maybe pine nuts, and a lot of olive oil, delicious garlic-laced recipes, good for vegetarians, good for nutrition, and it turns out they call it the Mediterranean diet, and nutritionists have rated it the most healthful ethnic diet in the world, and it's low on fat, salt, sugar compared to other diets, and it's not that heavy on meat. And boy, is it delicious! It is beyond delicious. I mean,
well, the question
stuffed
was
eggplant and all that, huh?
The question was, they have your Ralph Nader Family Cookbook, and they want to know what's your favorite Lebanese dish. And
it's called stuffed eggplant. Listen, I loved it so much, my mother gave it to me on my 5th birthday. How about that one? It's called Shaykh al-Mehshi in Arabic, and it's stuffed eggplant with tomatoes, pine nuts. You can have lamb version, or you can have the vegetarian version. Sprinkle a little parsley, olive oil. I mean, it's just makes your mouth water, and it's very good for you.
Making me hungry.
And that question came from our buddy, Goose Flora Fauna, who was asking what your favorite Lebanese dish was.
Yes. Is that the same question?
Yes, I just wanted to make sure we shouted them out, because when we do our, the live stream, usually we read their names. So I just wanted to make sure, because Goose is one of our, they're one of our people. So I wanted to make sure they heard them.
Okay, yeah, that's good. Yeah, I was on Lulu on Weekend Edition about 2 months ago, and it took it. I hate to use the word Amazon, but it took the book from 75,000 on Amazon to 300, because all over the country, NPR. She gave it a great run, in an interview said it made her want to teach her 7-year-old daughter how to cook so they could cook together. So, people in the COVID spending more time in the kitchen, they're starting to expand or grow their backyard gardens, and if they can, and it's just a good time for a book like this. And it's so tragic what's going on in this country. You got this bungling buffoon and telling people take bleach and some drug that doesn't work that could attack their heart, and detonating the whole federal scientific effort to coordinate, and downplaying the pandemic for weeks, saying, it's only be 10, 15 people. You might know that Eugene Jarecki, the filmmaker, he did a film, Why We Fight. He set up a death clock. He had it for a month in Times Square. The New York Times ignored it. He had it scientifically based on if Trump acted 2 weeks earlier, he would save X number of people every day who are losing their lives. It's like a clock. And he wants to take it around the country and teach people how to set up a similar counter, COUNTER. So you might want to look up the Trump death clock, see what it's all about, because you could do one in your area. It's pretty easy. It's got good directions and guidelines, which is what he wants to do. He wants to spread it around the country. So anyone want to match Steve? Steve's 1,000? Want to make this a memorable virtual fundraiser? Howie and Angela they got to work very, very hard. The least all you have to do is write a check, although you can do more. You can bring out the votes and help in many ways around the country. But if you just want to write a check, they got to do the sweating and the work and take the brickbacks and follow up. So when you look back on it, it's not going to break your bank. So how about some finale in the final minutes? Get it up to 10,000, much of it being matched because it's 250 or less. You double it and look at the Green Party website, read the Green Party magazine, talk it up. You'll see that Green Party agenda is much more popular than the other two parties. Obviously, the Republicans, destruction, corporate demons. But the Democrats, they rejected a lot of Bernie's agenda. They wouldn't go for full Medicare for all, everybody in, nobody out, at half the price per capita. That's the experience in Canada. And by the way, nobody dies in Canada. Luxembourg, France, Italy, Taiwan, Japan, Australia, Germany, because they can't afford health insurance. You know how many people die in this country, according to a Yale study just came out recently? Between 65,000 and 106,000 people die every year because they can't afford health insurance to get diagnosed and treated in time. You can imagine how many injuries and illnesses are in that category. And you got to talk that up. Most people don't talk about the casualties. They talk about the economics and the pain, suffering. There are real casualties here.
Yeah,
so can we get it up to 10 before we call it a night? What do you say?
I think that's a good goal. We also have 17 more donations to hit 100 donors. So we've had 83 so far. So if you've been back waiting, let's get 100 donors. This is a virtual fundraiser that we've never tried before. So we're kind of learning as we go. We're at 7,500 right now. So
7,500 on the way to 10,000. Yep. Let's see who can give 100 before we go down. We don't want to go down too fast to lower denominations. Who can give 100?
Clinton in North Carolina just gave another 250, and
excellent.
Kelly in Washington just gave 100. Kenneth,
excellent,
another 100 out of California.
California was our greatest state fundraising locale. So come on, California. Berkeley, come on. Berkeley, Oakland, let's go. Southern California.
We have
how
a
about
donor
Escondido, San Diego, Kevin McCarthy's base in Bakersville. Let's see if we can get some from Rhode Island, because you got to get on the ballot. You're within reach in Rhode Island. We have good Greens in Rhode Island.
Yep, it's 1,000.
Massachusetts.
And just like really thinking about how what you said, Mr. Nader, about how many people in this country die because we do not have a program like Medicare for All in place. You know, just to bring it home for folks, those, you know, two of those people were my parents. I lost my parents last year within 4 months of each other from things that had they had, both of them died of cancer, and had they had access to, you know, the healthcare that we needed all along, plus, you know, the fact that we have a system that is allowed to practice medical apartheid against Black and Brown and Indigenous people. If that system was not what it was, I would still have my parents, and I don't. So when I think about, you know, when we're talking about these issues, please understand that, you know, with this campaign, these are not issues that are utopian, they're not pie in the sky, they're not abstract concepts for us. These are my parents. These are people I know. These are people you know. And our sense of urgency that this current system cannot stand. It's very urgent for us. And so, and we're aware that it is for you too, and we just want to make sure that y'all know that.
It's a pay or die system. It tells you pay or die, pay for the drugs or die, pay for this or die. It's so corrupt. It's amazing the American people allowed this to happen. We're land of the free, home of the brave, yeah. Tell me another one. No other citizens in any Western European country and some countries in Asia, Costa Rica, they didn't allow that. They didn't tolerate that. So you gotta have the kind of language that Angela just, she personalized it. She showed the causation. Got to bring it down. You can't just say single payer. You know, you got to bring it down every day.
I was telling the story of my neighbor down right below me in my apartment, who was a Medicaid patient, low-wage worker, and at the end of March, he decided he would pay his utility bill, which was high because of the winter, and he would skip the kidney medicine he needed, which Medicaid didn't pay for. And he'd been doing fine until that month. And by the middle of April, he was dead. And that is the kind of thing that happens over.
We call these, Howie, we call these corporate homicides.
Yeah. Well, we got our second person to 1,000. That's Carol, the landlady. And we have another guy named Sankar Amidi. He's at, looks like over 750. So we got that bidding war going on, and we're at 8,500. So
that's wonderful. Give me their names again so I can thank them. The connection is not quite clear.
Steve Welser in New Jersey, you know him.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. Right.
Sankar Bhamidi, S-A-N.
Sankar Bhamidi.
Yes. And,
thank you.
We can get you, okay. And then Carol Euler.
Hello?
Did you hear that? Carol Euler.
No, I didn't. It cut off. Can you give me her name again?
Carol Euler.
Carol, thank you so much. Thank you very much. Never mind so much. Very much. So are we in a little friendly bidding war, Howie?
It looks like it. And we're at 92 donations. So we got to get 8 more donations and another $1,500, and we would reach $10,000 from 100 donors.
That's my experience. You know, it gets better as the minutes tick off. People often, it's a slow start, fundraisers, even, you know, real in auditoriums. And then people get into the swing of things and they start developing their own perspective on things and say, well, why not? And look at, my friend did it, why can't I do it? And on and on. Everybody has their own feelings and their own justifications, their own motivations, fine. But you got to get on more ballots. You get over 40 ballots, they take you more seriously. And then you got to say, let Howie debate, let Angela debate, let her debate Pence, let Howie debate Trump. See, you got to keep the drumbeat up. There's nothing better than word of mouth. It's very fast when it gets underway, and it's very authentic. Person to person, neighbor to neighbor, friend to friend, parishioner to parishioner, worker to worker. You got to talk it up. Green's got to be more talkative.
Yeah, to people outside the Greens. We talk to each other a lot, but we need to face out a little more, I think.
You need to support the post office. That's a very popular thing. Comes in on 90%. Want Trump to lay off the post office. Get rid of that crony who donated millions to his campaign and is now the postmaster general, running it into the ground. You know, cutting out overtime, slowing down the mail so the ballots by mail get all screwed up in October, all the way to November. These are demons. These are crafty, criminalistic politicians here you're dealing with, violating the Constitution, treaties, law breaking, lawless Trump. You know, you got to focus on the post office when you can, because that's a good talking point. And you know, I was going to say on Main Street, but you got the COVID. But anytime you can raise it, it's very, very popular. Benjamin Franklin had the right idea.
Yeah, they were threatening to close the post office in this neighborhood, and I went out there with a petition, and I got like 3,000 signatures in a few days. So
There you are.
the post office is a meeting place. It's an important resource. People pay their bills with money orders, and this is a black side of Syracuse, and it already closed one of the two post offices, and people weren't going to let that last one be closed. And I think the post office hurt us. Now, the people in leadership of the post office now, they wouldn't care. But yeah, it is popular. People like their post office.
I think that people have to understand that the post office is not something separate from infrastructure. And I think you've talked about that, Howie, that, you know, this is something that the federal government should not be questioning whether they're going to fund and support it or not. It shouldn't need a bailout. The post office is critical infrastructure, I would argue, particularly during this pandemic. And so, you know, for all of our folks that are watching and listening, you know, let's you know, be aware that just like with our public schools, the defunding of the post office is intentional. It is intended to, you know, make it look like it can't function so that people say, oh, see, it's not working. They should privatize it. And I also want people to be aware that, you know, and y'all can correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding of this DeJoy individual is that not only is he and his wife are major Trump supporters and contributors, but also people who hold stock or hold money in the competitors to the post office. So, I mean, dude, they're not even trying to hide it no more. We are in the Gilded Age, and it's ridiculous.
They own stock in UPS, Angela.
Yeah.
I mean, they're shameless, totally shameless.
It's unbelievable. They're not even trying to hide it or make it look like it's something it's not. So I just, you know, our folks that are watching and with us, and just be aware of, you know, follow the money. These people are not, you know, they're not acting out of, you know, this, oh, gee, we need to. The post office runs just fine if you let it run like it's supposed to. So
that's right. And by the way, you know, it's essential network for medicines, and even the Pentagon looks at the post office as a national security institution, you know, because there are 32,000 post office branches all over the country. Nobody has a network like that, and they're in it to serve, not to make profits and big bonuses for, you know, top brass. So we put out 2 books on the post office in the last 30 years. And Christopher Shaw, he's the author of our latest book. Look him up, S-H-A-W. And he's written articles in the Washington Post and other newspapers in the last few weeks. And he summarizes what Angela was talking about. Christopher Shaw.
That's a great book. I've actually talked to Christopher Shaw about it. It's people should find it and read it. So we're at 97 donations. So we're getting close to our 100 donor goal. And well, another person just donated. So we're at 98 and we're at 8,700, a little over 8,700. Oh, 8,800.
Is that our Gloria Matera that I'm seeing in the chat who just donated?
We know some Glorias. That's one of the Glorias it could be.
Ooh.
Whichever one it was. Thank you.
Yes,
Confirmed.
it is Gloria
Ding, ding,
Matera.
ding.
Thank you.
Go Howie and Angela, your 2010 running mate. From your 2010 running mate.
Yeah, Gloria Matera ran for lieutenant governor when I ran for governor in 2010, and the Green Party got a ballot line in New York. So.
And Howie debated Governor Andrew Cuomo and asked him why he's rebating billions of dollars back to Wall Street every day, collecting the stock transfer tax. That's what they're doing now. They're taking in $40 million a day, rebating it back to Wall Street brokers instead of using it to fill the budget deficit produced by the coronavirus. $16 billion deficit, $16 billion rebated to the Wall Street brokers could meet that deficit. And how we raised that, right?
I raised it in 2010. You campaigned with me on that. And I raised it again yesterday in a press release to Governor Cuomo, citing those numbers you said. He's saying if the feds don't come through with aid to state government, he's going to cut 20% from healthcare, 20% from the schools, 20% from state funding for local governments, which will be devastating. And the money that the state collects it and gives it right back to Wall Street every day.
Yep.
And it's a tax we had since 1905, but since 1981, the state has been rebating it. And it's a shame.
Well, Howie, the highest donation is $1,000. I guess there are 3 of them, and we want to hit 10,000.
Right.
We're up to, are we at over 9,000?
8820.
Okay. So someone gives $1,200, get over 10,000. I've got this book right in my hand. I will personalize it, Crashing the Party on the 2000 campaign, and we'll send it to you after you give Howie or Travis your address, your physical address. It's not online. And you can read about that campaign. So anybody of means, anybody who got into Apple stock early, wants to sell a few of them, anybody who wants to take it over the top. If this was in an auditorium now, we'd be up to 30 to 40,000 with the same number of people, Howie. It's very difficult doing it virtually. And but you're hanging in there, people. You're good sports. But let's take it over 10. And it's expensive to get on these state ballots. You can rest assured the 2 parties have made it expensive for third parties
And it's
to get on.
It's expensive to stay on them because they
Yep.
challenge the ballots, and you need lawyers. And if you go to court, you got filing fees, and they try to bleed us dry. And
Yep.
so, we're defending the petition. Pennsylvania, all about Pennsylvania, Ralph.
Oh,
Right.
horrible state for ballot access.
Yep. We got served process today. So it's estimated $15,000 we got from the lawyer who worked on a case for Pennsylvania Greens in 2006, Carl Romanelli. So that's the kind of expenses that we face just fighting getting on the ballot.
Luckily, people on the line should know there are lawyers who are doing this pro bono in some parts of the country. They're free. And I know Oliver Hall in Washington, who did a lot of the ballot access for me, is helping out.
Yes.
And
he and other lawyers helped us appeal to state governments for relief in this pandemic. And
Right.
we got it from Vermont. We negotiated it from New Jersey, Maryland. And then we had to sue in some states. In Illinois, we sued, and I believe
Yeah.
Oliver was in that lawsuit, or he advised on it, and we won in court. And the Democratic government of Illinois appealed, and we won on appeal. And I think
Yep.
it was a third appeal, but we're on the ballot in Illinois. So, those lawyers have been a big help to us.
by the way, people say, well, you're not on the ballot. You can always write in a vote. A lot of states don't even bother counting it. In District of Columbia, they don't even count write-ins unless it can change the course of the election between the 2 major parties. Oklahoma, we had lots of write-ins because it couldn't get on the ballot. It was horrifically difficult, like Georgia and Oklahoma. And they didn't even count the ballots. They don't care, sue us. There's no criminal prosecution for obstructing candidates and voters, and the 2 work together. If you get candidate rights on the ballot, you give more choice to the voters, make the votes more meaningful, broaden out the agendas, get a variety of candidates. So this is big stuff. You know, one time fundraiser, Howie and Angela, and we didn't go over the top, but we had about 10 minutes left. And I said, hey, someone call the proverbial rich uncle, will you? Somebody actually called the rich uncle. And the rich uncle said to the niece, oh, I can't turn you down. Okay, how much do you want? And he wrote the check that brought us over the top. So anybody have the proverbial rich uncle?
Well, we've hit 100 donors and we're at $9,055 at this point.
Okay.
So we're getting there.
Yeah. If you can't give 100, if you're exhausted, if we've exhausted the $100 category, try 75 or 50. $50. We're always looking for the big one now. Anybody give anything over 1,000, they win the contest for the book. Otherwise, I can't break the book into 3 parts. There were $3,000 givers, as I recall. So, anybody call in? I hate to say it, but if you give $1,000 and $2, the $2 bill, by the way, is what you want to use to get people to show up. Shows the people signing Declaration of Independence. They showed up and they thought they were signing their death sentence to King George III, the most powerful military in the world at the time. So, just somebody want to come in with that? What are you seeing, Travis?
Well, Steve Welser, he just donated another $200 and left a donor comment, I want Ralph's book. And I just noticed he's one of the people. He's actually one of the people featured in Howie's book.
Yeah. Okay, Steve. Unless someone comes in higher than 1,200. You got to make this a little fun in these tragic times.
I just want to shout out John Smith in the chat. Says, after the announcement today for Biden's VP, I'm happy to say I am still voting Hawkins Walker. Stay strong out there. And so I saw that. I just wanted to say thank you. We really appreciate the support, the encouragement, because this is truly a Sisyphean task, to say the least. You got not only 2 workers running for the White House, but we're also both introverts. And so when you talk about putting people out there and just here we are. So, I mean, it's not a small thing. So any encouragement that y'all have to give and all of your support and, all of y'all showing up for us tonight, these are massive things and we're grateful for you.
Well, I think, Ralph, it's time to wrap it up. Unless you got an inspiration to get some more donors. I think by the time we're done here, some people want to write a check. They'll see when they go to hawkins20.us/Ralph, which is where you donate online. There's also an option to send a check, which some people prefer to do. So we may not see $10,000 in our coffers right now through the online donations, but as a result of this, we may get there. So
what are we up to now, Howie?
Last number I see is $9,065.89.
All right, let's try one more approach.
Well, no,
let's try. Do we have a few minutes to try one more approach to get to 10,000?
Sure.
Okay. Your favorite cause, people. The next contributions, your favorite cause. Just dedicate it to your favorite cause. Dedicate it to the atrocity of mass incarceration and solitary confinement, brutality. or dedicate it to the Palestinian rights cause, or dedicate it to the frontline workers who are paid the least and have to keep the country going, the healthcare workers, grocery workers, mass transit workers, sanitation workers, and exposing themselves to COVID. You can dedicate it to them. Dedicate it to some local civic hero in your community. Dedicate it to waging peace, having a Department of Peace, as Dennis Kucinich proposed when he was a congressperson from Ohio. Department of Peace. We have a Department of War, which is euphemistically called Department of Defense. By the way, it used to be called the War Department until after World War II, when the linguistic manipulators took over. And so why don't you come in, and then when you dedicate it, we'll announce who you're dedicating it to. So against some injustice, against more justice for people, certain people, whatever cause, general or specific. If you have a local cause you want publicized, we'll all mention it. Is that working, Travis?
We just got a donation come through. I got to reload my browser to see the comment though. We've had a couple come in, but we haven't had anybody yet dedicate their donation to a cause. But
well, it's only been 60
yeah,
seconds. Just give them a little bit more time. And it's always nice to end with a round number, like 10,000, right?
Well, we're getting closer. We're at 94.56 and 23 cents.
There you are. If you want a Green Party on your ballot in your state, tell the people on the line what states you're getting close to that you're not on the ballot yet that you want to get. So, like if it's Rhode Island, maybe someone will give from Rhode Island. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, Rhode Island is one of them. Minnesota is one of them. Virginia, Georgia, Idaho, North Dakota, Iowa. Those are where the most active petition drives are right now. Kentucky's coming up. And of course, I mentioned Arizona. They're going right now because they got to get 37,000 by September 4th. So there's states all over the country. And if I didn't
come on, Minnesotans. Well, if you give, we'll pronounce Minnesota the way the Swedes pronounce Minnesota. Minnesota. St. Paul, Minneapolis, and all the towns and villages and farms in between. Let's have Minnesota, the source of the Mississippi River. Put us over the
Minnesota.
top.
We know we got a lot of supporters there. That was one of our 20 states where we hit matching funds.
Yeah, one reason, by the way, Travis, is it's got the consumer food co-op stores clustered in the country. Consumer co-ops selling food, owned by the Minnesota. Bring us over the top. The land of progressive politics in the past.
And Ludovisk.
We have a dedicated donation from Scott Cove, who dedicated it to Garrett Foster, defender of Black lives, gunned down by hate.
Oh, how beautiful. How beautiful. Thank you. I'm sure others have similar, very sensitive people they want to remember and honor. Anybody in Kentucky? You're on in Kentucky?
No, that's a 5,000 signature petition, and we're just getting started there. That's going to be, we got a month to get them, but the Green Party in Kentucky is not the biggest, so it's going to need help.
Yeah.
Here's another
Arizona,
one.
Virginia. How about Falls Church? How about Alexandria, Virginia? Come on. We know some of you. We know you can do it. Dedicate it to Patrick Henry.
I think we got
George Mason, who didn't sign the Constitution because it didn't have a Bill of Rights. He held out in 1787, and he got it. 2 years later, he got the Bill of Rights. George Mason.
Well, I think we got a Minnesota dedication from Joanne Rayfield to Paul Wellstone is who it's dedicated to.
Oh, how wonderful, Joy. Thank you so much. What a wonderful senator he was in that plane crash in the rain with his wife. I can remember the day and where we were, and tragic. He was getting more and more influence in the U.S. Senate. And unlike a lot of liberal senators, he connected with the citizen groups who have members all over the country. He would meet with them, plan with them, collaborate with them. And his last legislative act was a bill we had to provide facilities for people to organize as consumers all over the country. So tragic. Thank you very, very much. We'll always treasure his example, his legacy.
We just hit 9,600, so we're just 400 short of 10,000, our goal.
How close are we getting?
9,600, so we're 400.
We're gonna make it.
Okay, we got another dedication from Ashley Cabtree, donated a little in honor of Stephon Clark, murdered by police in my hometown of Sacramento.
Beautiful. Never should they be forgotten. Everybody has a cause. Everybody has someone they want to remember, memorialize, honor. Now's the time. By the way, people should know, the Green Party hardly knows the meaning of the word overhead. They are lean, and they don't have tiers of gouging consultants the way the Democrats have, Republicans. They don't have tiers of bureaucracy. What you give to is used right on the line.
Okay, we got another dedication, Melissa Wyant. I can give $10 more dedicated to early childhood education. I want the Green Party to grow so that myself and my colleagues, fellow teachers, can someday receive the respect and the pay we deserve. Teachers are the foundation of all other careers. During this pandemic, we have yet again been thrown aside, but some of us won't back down. Amen to that.
Bravo, bravo to that. The earlier the child is beloved, treated sanely, calmly, safely, educated, letting the child become its own teacher. They have great imaginations if they're encouraged. The earlier the better. I mean, every study shows that.
We're at $9,821.55. So we're getting
We're
close.
almost there. How about Virginia? Virginia is going more and more liberal, progressive, and they've got some good progressive lawyers there working, taking down Confederate statutes that nobody ever dreamed they would take down, put away in an area where people can remember what they represented, and preserving that kind of history, but not putting it on public grounds where African Americans have to walk by every day. How about from Virginia? Virginia, putting it over the top. Arizona, Georgia, Stacey Abrams area.
We hit it.
And we hit it.
$10,055.
Y'all are amazing.
Excellent, excellent.
And if Steve Wells would put in another 300, so so I guess he really wants that book.
He's that book.
Steve is up to 1,500.
I believe so. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, we'll get his address and we'll send it to Steve Walser, New Jersey, Evergreen. Steve is an evergreen, not only a green, he's an evergreen.
Yes, he is.
He's not that easy to get along with sometimes, but he's green argumentative. But when you want to see a green stay with it, stamina, he stays with it. He also puts out this green magazine, which you should read. It's very substantive.
Well, Ralph, we really appreciate you coming on tonight. This is more money than we raised on the day Bernie Sanders dropped out, which had been our biggest day to this point. And of course, it's doubled, or most of it's doubled, up to the $250 contribution. So this will go a long way to helping us get on the ballot.
Well, it's a pleasure and a privilege to be with you. Travis, thank you very much. And it's important to thank all the participants as well. Thank Angela, Howie, and I think some of the people on the line will probably be coming in with some contributions in the coming day or two. If you didn't feel like you could do it or you didn't talk with someone who could help you make the contribution, don't worry. That the website, what's the website again?
The donation for this fundraiser is Hawkins20, the number 20.us/Ralph. And the campaign website is howiehawkins.us. And that's where you can find the donate button and all our campaign materials, how to volunteer, how to connect to the social media, everything you need to know about the campaign and get involved with it.
Say it again slowly, Howie.
howiehawkins.us is the website.
Okay. And by the way, you can get my column free electronically. Sign up. It'll be sent every week. 7 minutes of agitation. You'll get some good ideas. Connect with people that I mentioned that are in your same wavelength. And just go to nader.org. Just nader.org. You can sign up and get the weekly column.
Mr. Nader, it has been an absolute honor and an absolute pleasure to meet you and to have you share space with us. This is a pretty big deal. So I just wanted you to know I was fangirling the whole time.
Well, thank you very much, Angela. And good luck. And I wish you all could campaign on the ground, but you got to do what you can do with the technology you have, and think up, we all should think up new ways to reach people, like these conference calls and using Zoom and all that. You might be able to reach a lot more people. I remember I'd fly out to place, like Kansas, western Kansas, it'd be like 18 people in the room. And so if you can perfect the Zoom, you might get larger and larger audiences. Not the same as being in person, but you go with what you have and you keep social distance and obey the CDC guidelines, because that's really the most important thing that we all have to do. And Professor Osterholm of University of Minnesota, who is one of the great infectious disease specialists in the world, just co-authored a column in the New York Times a couple of days ago saying we better shut down again for 6 months, otherwise it's going to be with us for a year. Shut down again, except for crucial necessity work, like food stores and health care places. Shut down again 6 weeks, and the title is "That's the Way to Crush the COVID-19 Virus." Let's see who listens in the corridors of government. The Green Party's got a great role in publicizing people like him and people who really know what they're talking about when it comes to pandemics. So I would not neglect mentioning the proper way to deal with the pandemic every day when you campaign. Well, thank you all.
Thank you, Ralph. And thank you, everybody, for being on today. And it was a good day for the campaign because now we got some resources to go out there and get on more ballots and defend the ballot lines where the Democrats are using all their money to try to keep us off. So, Angela, you have any last words for folks?
Just what I usually say every week. I want y'all to, take care of yourselves as best you can. Eat as well as you possibly can. Make sure you're getting rest. Prioritize your health, and not just your physical health, but also your mental and emotional health, because this is a lot to deal with. So y'all just take care of yourselves and take care of each other as best you can.
Very important, Angela. Thank you. Travis, you opened the fundraiser. Why don't you close it with the final tally?
Well, it sounds like the latest number I've seen is that we got up to $10,055.82. Oh, $10,186.55. Astonishing.
Right away, late contributor.
Yeah.
Yeah, keep it coming in the next day.